Hi guys, welcome to a weekend reading vlog. So it is currently snowing outside. I don't know if you can see my porch. I'm getting a couple inches of snow today, so working from home, which is lovely. Always nice and relaxing, and today's Friday, so it's the start of the weekend after work, after I clock out later. Reading plans for this weekend consist mostly of Jadefire Gold by June C.L. Tan. I'm going to be buddy reading this with Stephanie. This is the Fairy Loot edition, so it's got really pretty, it's got like a sword sprayed on the edge, which is awesome. So yeah, that's exciting. Very much looking forward to this. This is one of my most anticipated reads from last year, releases from last year. So I'm gonna be reading that. I don't know how dense it's gonna be, so it may be a quick read, maybe not. Hi, it is now the end of the workday, or work is over, that is, and I'm going to jump into Jadefire Gold by June C.L. Tan. I've been really looking forward to reading this. Stephanie and I have been talking about reading it together for a while, and just so excited. I don't know a whole lot about this one other than supposedly it has Zuko Katara vibes from Avatar: The Last Airbender, which was like, I would go down with that ship when I was like 12, and even now at 27 I would still go down for that ship. So if this is anything like that, I'm sure to love it. I know there is an exiled prince a la Zuko and a peasant girl with mysterious powers a la Katara. And yeah, I don't know how widespread magic is in this world, but the prince thinks that this girl is his path back to the throne for whatever reason. And I know it switches perspective between the two. Alton and On are their names. The name Alton gives me a little bit of PTSD from the Poppy War, not gonna lie, but no worries. I'm sure I will reassociate the name with this, and hopefully it'll be cute and happy. That's what I'm looking for right now. I want something light. I'm also reading The Burning God at the moment, which is the last book in the Poppy War series, and that's just trauma, so I'm hoping this is a bit lighter. I do love, like, dramatics and, intrigue, but I'm hoping it's more of like a fun adventure story rather than like something that's gonna leave me feeling dead and hollow when I'm done. But yeah, I will update after I've read a little bit and kind of have a better idea of what the story is gonna be about, and hopefully talk to Stephanie soon about it and see what her thoughts are as well. So yeah, let's dive right in. Look at that evil look. Is he sleeping or is he glaring at me? Who's to say? Who's to say? Okay, I'm about almost 60 pages in, just hit chapter 5 of Jade Fire Gold. I'm having a little bit of a hard time getting into it, not because it's bad, but there's just a lot going on. There's a lot of world building, and I wish there was a map. There's not a map at the front, just a little bit of a bummer, because I like a good map. We're learning a little bit about each of our main characters, An and Alton. Alton is a prince in exile. His father was assassinated. He was the emperor. He was assassinated and overthrown by his own brother, which is awkward. And An doesn't remember her parents. She was raised by an older woman who sort of like found her on the streets, and she refers to her as her grandma, but they're not actually related. And her grandma's sick, so An is kind of having to like resort to stealing and stuff to try to pay for her medicine, and their paths just crossed at a bazaar. So I'm intrigued, but I'm still like learning about the world, and I feel like we don't have a super great grasp of our characters quite yet. An possesses some magical ability, and having magic is basically illegal in this world. You will be burned at the stake, and anyone who harbored you, knowing, that you had magic, faces just total exile and having their tongue cut out, and the word traitor basically branded on their forehead. So that's hardcore. So An has to hide this ability from everyone that she knows. Her grandma knows about it, but otherwise she hasn't been able to tell anybody, and she just had to use some magic to save her own life, so that's hardcore. The prince also seems to possess some sort of magic. I think his is more like fire-based. He's looking for a phoenix or something to grant him a wish, and he's trying to take his throne back, and she is just trying to get by. Their paths briefly crossed, and then they went separate ways. I'm curious to see how their paths cross once again, and whatnot. Again, I'm literally only like 50 pages into it, so not very far, but getting a little bit more of a grasp on this world. I'll update later once I'm a little more well-informed. I'm enjoying it so far, but it is a bit of a slow start to begin. Hello, it is a new day. It's Saturday morning. Hi, Rocket. I'm about 100 pages into Jade Fire Gold. I was just catching up with Stephanie this morning. She has not started it, so hopefully she does today. Like I said yesterday, it's a little slow going at the moment, but I'm intrigued. We're meeting more characters. People are mysterious. An's powers are very mysterious. Apparently they're like life-stealing, which makes one group of people want to kill her, and one group of people think she's like gonna save the land, so no pressure or anything. But yeah, I don't really quite know the scope of what I'm gonna do today. Obviously read, but I've got some other stuff I need to get done this weekend. It's just kind of a matter of if I have the motivation and energy to do them. So we shall see, but definitely gonna read some more. So gonna do that while I figure out the rest of my day. Hello, sort of a non-update update. I have not read at all today. I painted my nails, I watched some YouTube, and then I fell asleep on the couch. So, big day. And now I'm gonna make a grocery run because we're completely out of seltzer water, which is an unprecedented event in my house. So, plow guys also still haven't plowed, so I have to walk to my car in the snow. But, yeah, hopefully I'll read some later today. I am enjoying it so far. I don't know why I haven't gotten, like, hooked into it yet, because it is usually the type of story that, gets me. So, after some errands. Hopefully I wake up a little bit more so I can read without falling asleep. But yeah, sorry, this weekend reading vlog is not going so great. Okay, I got my tea. I got my book. I have my backup water. I'm ready to get back into this. Hello, it is now Sunday, and I believe that forces are conspiring against me for me reading this book, because I woke up this morning with just a horrible headache, like the kind where chewing hurts. So I was like trying to eat breakfast and drink coffee, get something in my stomach before I took some pain meds, and it was just nearly impossible. And I spent a good chunk of the late morning and early afternoon with an ice pack over my eyes in a dark room, just laying down, and took a little bit of a nap. And thankfully by the time I woke up, it was gone, but I just feel like my energy is zapped today. So that's fun. I did make it to page 181 last night. Stephanie's way ahead of me. She's on page like 300 something. And she said it was around this point that like it really picked up and she couldn't put it down. So I'm gonna try to read some more and hopefully I can get a good chunk done. I feel like I've wasted so much of the day and so much of the weekend, but it's how it goes. You know, sometimes your body tells you in uncomfortable ways that it needs a break. And so hopefully now that I've taken one, I can rebound and recover a little bit and make up for some lost time in reading. I will update again later after I've read some more. Hello, it is now Monday. I finished Jade Fire Gold last night before bed. It was a pretty quick read, actually. I didn't think I was going to be able to finish it Sunday, but I did, so woo. Overall, though, I don't know. I feel kind of conflicted about it at the moment. I think the premise was really promising, and I enjoyed the first part, but ultimately I just ended up feeling kind of shallow. I think it went really fast, so it didn't really have a lot of time to build up the characters and really make me care about them or their journeys. I feel like the successes didn't really feel quite earned. The couple, like the relationship between Alton and An, just didn't feel powerful. I didn't really end up caring super much about whether or not they got together, and I was really excited about this because I heard it had like Zuko Katara vibes from Avatar: The Last Airbender, and I just found that really lacking. So I was a little disappointed, which really hurts because I was super excited about this book. I did end up giving it 3 stars, but kind of on the lower end of 3 stars. It hurts because I really wanted to love this book. I'm getting a very similar impression from Stephanie as well, so let's talk to her about it and hear her thoughts.
All right, so Jade Fire Gold, thoughts, opinions, rating, feelings.
Rating, it's like solid middle of the ground for me.
Yeah, I had kind of higher hopes for this, and I think that's sort of what let me down. It felt very like average YA fantasy, in my opinion.
I think one of the things I like thought about writing in my review and I opted out of because I knew we were going to chat here is I think the comparisons people are making where it's like, this is like Avatar: The Last Airbender. I think it actually did it a disservice because you go in with such a huge expectation that it's like, if you had just not told me that, I think I would have come to my own likes and desires about this book, but I already went in with like such high expectations.
Especially, I actually wrote this in my Goodreads review, was that it felt like if you'd crammed the entirety of Avatar, like the series, into a single season, everything just happened so fast. So there really wasn't a lot of time for relationship and character development, which is, in my opinion, the best part of a fantasy story, is getting to know these characters as you journey with them. And it felt more about the journey than the characters, and even then the journey was very fast.
I agree. And I really, one of the things that I wrote, like reflecting on my thoughts about the book, is that the characters themselves and the potential that they had, I really enjoyed. I don't think there was any character that I really didn't like, but I just felt like we didn't get enough time with them, and that was really disheartening.
And there was quite a large cast of characters considering the length of this novel, and that it is currently a standalone, it felt like too many characters, so our time was kind of diluted with all of them. So yeah, you really, even with our two protagonists, I feel like I didn't really get to know them as well as I wanted to, much less the side characters.
All the characters, especially, were like the little glimpses that you get where it's like, I would have really loved to have seen more with Lei.
She was the most intriguing character, and we knew
Yep.
the least about him.
Which
Like,
I feel like there's that bit that's like, oh, well, if he's mysterious and you don't know a lot about it, and then like, ooh, mystery. But I'm like, it wasn't even that I needed to like know more about him, but even just like, I wish there would have been more of like, even just a little more of an interaction with our Prince Taishun. I
yeah,
wish there
we
was
had
more.
feelings for him, but like we got no background on it other than we were all childhood friends. Just like,
Yeah.
that's it. I want angst.
And that's where it's like, I think it's interesting. We had talked about this when we were reading it together during the week, where it was like, we had the opposite happen with Six and Crimson Cranes, where we thought it was standalone and then it was a series. And this one's like, oh, it is standalone. Like the potential that this plot had, if it had been given the time to just like really spread out and develop that story, I think would have been so good. And again, from what I saw on June CL Tan's TikTok, love her TikTok, by the way, she has it like planned out for the possibility, but it seems like it was, like you said, so much crammed into one book that it just loses some of that. One of the things that I was constantly thinking about when I was reading this and then thinking about how I felt about the book, where one of the things we talked about early on was like, oh, there's no map. And like, it would have been cool to have a map. And I was wondering, with a lot of the elements in the story of like, do we not get as much information and it's assumed that we know it? Because this is something that within Chinese media, whether it's visual or film or written, like there's such a rich, like already developed arena for this that I wonder if it's something where like, maybe as a
The
Western
Poppy War
audience, we
has a
don't know
map.
this. Huh?
The Poppy War has a map, and that's
No,
proto
no,
China.
no. But what I mean is like, because like in the on the author description where it talks about how our author really loves wuxia, I wonder if it's something where a lot of these references or things, if you already are familiar with wuxia or xianxia like as a genre, if you already know these things because it's like, oh, this is really familiar in this genre. Whereas if you're somebody who's coming into it for the first time, if you don't have a reference like Sub-Zero or like the English publications for MDZS and TGCF just came out not too long ago, and like that's a really popular story as well. So like for me, it wasn't as
Still
hard to
pretty
visualize
niche,
certain
I
things.
think. I think it's still pretty niche in America, though.
Yeah, no, and that's where I think because it's becoming more popular, there's like I could see where it's like, I'm not going to include that because I think this is so well established, but for a new audience member, it might be like, I have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, it was just hard to tell, like, how much of this land in the beginning is magically been taken over by desert because it's been cursed. How far away is her village from the town that she goes to work in every day? How far is that town away from the capital that she ends up at? So it's just, even if it's meant to be sort of a common knowledge thing, I would still like landmarks, I guess.
Yeah.
And so in a fantasy, I think I'm just spoiled at this point. I'm just used to a map. So I was a little disappointed at the lack thereof in this one. At the end of the day, though, that wasn't even my biggest issue with the story. Again, I think the pacing was
What is your biggest issue? Go.
The pacing, for sure. There's no time for character development and relationship development to happen. And like you can see her trying, there's sort of like this shaky sort of acquaintances to enemies to friends to enemies to lovers kind of roller coaster happening, but like nothing hits emotionally, like they're hiding things from each other, and when it's revealed they feel betrayed, but then they like so quickly move on that it's like, what was the point of that? Like it didn't feel like it actually developed into the relationship, because again, like as a reader, I felt nothing when some of those reveals happened. So that was kind of disappointing, because again, like when you're reading something like this where there's supposed to be this slow burn romance, you want the pining, you want the angst, and I just feel like we didn't get any of that. So while the plot was fun, it felt a little shallow. I did end up giving this 3 stars ultimately because I don't think it was horrible. Like, I enjoyed it and it was a fast read. I just don't think it's memorable at all. Like, there's so many other, especially within this like YA Eastern Asian inspired fantasy, that just stand out in this field so much more than this one's going to inevitably fall. As you know, I was also reading The Burning God around the same time, which is the third book in the Poppy War series, and like that's just such a different like plane of existence. Like, it's such a different caliber of storytelling that it probably made this book feel less impressive because just in comparison it's not even fair.
I do think if it's somebody who, if this is their first foray into the genre,
I think it's a great starting point. Yeah.
Specifically if you're not like, it's like all the people who have no point of reference, either like not with their background or just like never have heard of wuxia. I think this would be a good starting point, because I know with a lot of other stories, like with MDZS, for example, it is very overwhelming from the get-go. And so having something that kind of like brings you into it slowly, I think is nice. I do really wish that the story had more room to actually develop.
Yeah, even with like the whole twin backdoor into a like sequel thing, I don't really know where this story could go beyond where it ended up. So I don't know. If it does come out with a sequel, I don't know if I'll necessarily be picking it up.
Yeah, or just because so much happens in this book, it's like if some of these things had been broken up to not
If
be
even the duology, I think
yeah,
it would have worked a lot better. And it also would have played into like the duality thing between him and her, and like the good and evil of the magic and all that. So
I do
yeah,
really
I feel like this should have been another book.
I do really like how the sword at the end of the day was just one sword and it wasn't two. Like that discussion, especially just kind of like what we perceive stories to be and how stories get told over time. That part I really enjoyed. I thought that was actually a really interesting commentary.
Yeah, how the victors end up sort of shaping history.
Yeah.
I'm gonna wrap this up because I feel like we've sort of talked our talking points out. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please feel free, if you've read this book, down in the comments, please let me know what you thought. I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions about Jade Fire Gold, or if you're planning on reading it. Don't let this review stop you. Again, I think this book is not bad. I just don't think we were the best readers for this book. Overall, it is a solid story. It's just, if a little rushed. Feel free to like this video down below, follow my channel if you don't already, and just leave a comment down below whether or not you've read this book. I'd love to hear your thoughts, and have a wonderful day. Bye.